So this story is actually 1 month old, but I'm not for sure if there's been any resolution to it. So in July, the judge executive, Hollis Anderson, he is supposedly the only judge in Trigg County who can marry people. And Hollis Alexander refused to marry Mandy Heath and her fiancé John because they are atheists and they didn't want the mentioning of anything Christian, including God, in their ceremony. So since they requested to not have God in the ceremony, then Hollis Alexander says, well, he has God in the ceremony, so he wasn't going to do it. Then he suggested that they go to a man named Craig Owen in Christian County. And that's a little bit ironic, but it's also a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass if you live in Trigg County to have to go to an entire another county just to get married. The public officials in your own county should marry you. We've already had discrimination. We've had bigotry against homosexuals. Remember the whole Kim Davis debacle? Our governor, Matt Bevin, who's kind of like a Donald Trump figure, he hurried up and embraced the hatred, the homophobia against homosexuals, essentially because he's a gay man on the inside of himself, and he doesn't want anybody to know about that gay man, and so he pretends that he hates gay people in order to hide that gay part of himself. But that also institutes a kind of Sharia law. It institutes a type of theocracy, that there is not a separation. There's not a wall between church and state. There is definitely, religion is intertwined in between government and the church. And so it just seems, it seems odd to me that you would accommodate anti-homosexual bigots, but you wouldn't accommodate atheists. Now, I've got the law pulled up. According to KRS, which is the body of law for Kentucky, the Kentucky Revised Statutes. And actually, I really like how the Legislative Research Commission puts these statutes online. Everybody can read it. Everybody can click on 402.050. Type in KRS 402.050, click on that law, and then you have the PDF version of that law. And it says, who may solemnize marriage? Persons present. Number 1, marriage shall be solemnized only by A, ministers of the gospel or priest of any denomination in regular communion with any religious society. So any religious people, Satanist, priest of Satanist, priest of, Muslims or Hindus or whatever they call their leadership, and of course Christians. B, justices and judges of the court of justice, retired justices and judges of the court of justice, except those removed for cause or convicted of a felony, county judges, executive, and the county judge executives and such justices of the peace and fiscal court commissioners as the governor or the county judge executive authorizes, or a religious society that has no officiating minister or priest and whose usage is to solemnize marriage at the usual place of worship and by consent given in the presence of the society, if either party belongs to the society. And then it says that at least 2 witnesses, in addition to the parties and the person solemnizing the marriage, needs to be present at the marriage. So if you actually look at that law and what that means it's not just a judge executive that can marry the, Mandy Heath and her fiancé John, but there was a lot of people that could have married Mandy Heath and John. Any religious minister could have done it, but if you have to go to you're not religious, you have to go to the government, well, that there's a limited amount of people. There's justices and judges in the court of justice. Well, that's the judicial system. Every single county in Kentucky's got a courthouse, and therefore they have a judicial system. There's a judge, there's a county attorney, there's the state's attorney, there's a justice system, the judicial system, right? 3 branches of government. And that means there should have been a justice or a judge in the courthouse that could have married it. Now, the judge executive is a little bit different than a judge. The judge executive is the executive branch of the county. So he's the president or the governor. He's the one that signs the bills, gets the budget passed. And so it's different than he's the executive branch. He's not the judicial branch. But there should have been some people in the judicial system that could have married him. The county judge also could have authorized, or the governor could have authorized, fiscal court commissioners or magistrates, which is the legislative branch, and such justices of the peace. So I usually think magistrates are a justice of the peace, but I'm not for sure. Justice of the peace could be cops too, the police officers. And police officers work underneath the executive branch. So there are more options. Hollis Alexander could have authorized his magistrates or commissioners, if any of them would have wanted to do it. He could have found a judge or justice in the courthouse. Perhaps there were none. Perhaps everybody's a bunch of bigoted Sharia law, theocrats. Or maybe, if they couldn't have found, or they could have got, a police officer. But instead, ironically, Hollis Alexander, he tells Mandy Heath and her fiance John to go to Christian County. And that's ironic. Go to Craig, Owen, and Christian County. So if there's anybody else in Trigg County that wants to get married, then apparently you got to go to Craig, Owen, and Christian County. But I think this is a lawsuit. This is discrimination. You can't discriminate. You can't pick and choose religions. I would sue the shit out of them. And I hope that there is some progress, actually, with this case, the ACLU, or with Mandy Heath and her fiance John, herself. But it's ironic. So, we only marry Christians. Basically, Hollis Alexander is saying, we only marry Christians around here. We force our God down your throat, and the way that we going to live is the way we're going to make you live, and we don't give a damn if you like that shit or not. If you don't want to get married as a Christian, if you don't want to get married with me saying God, well, then you need to get the hell on out of here up to Christian County. They'll marry atheists in Christian County. Another big point, Hollis Alexander isn't elected. So he was appointed in 2013. I don't know when his term is up, but if he's finishing a term, I think elections were last year, so maybe he was elected afterwards. I don't know. He was appointed by Steve Brashear in 2013. So he wasn't elected, not at first at least. And, I just think this is just so fucked up. Kentucky is a beautiful state, but there's a lot of ugly, backwards people here. In terms of morality, it's almost like sometimes you'll get a Martin Luther King. There's good Christians out there. There's Dorothy Day, Oscar Romero. There's some Christians that take the word of Jesus to heart and treat others as they'd want to be treated. Christians wouldn't want to be discriminated against. They wouldn't want to be treated, any different than anybody else, but they discriminate, and they're bigots. And that it's because I think that they get brainwashed by a religion. They think that they're good and proper and that they're nice and decent, and all they got to do. I remember Dean Dressel. Dean Dressel stole $400 or $500 away from me, and the Meade County Sheriff's Department didn't do a goddamn thing about it. They didn't give a shit. They had no morality. Well, they had no sense of justice. But I'm not talking about the sheriff. I'm talking about Dean Dressel. Dean Dressel is the landlord. I'm sitting there having a conversation about theology with him, and he says that as long as he believes that Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior and that he is the Son of God, as long as he believes in Jesus and believes in God, he's going to make it to heaven. It doesn't matter if he's a good person. It doesn't matter if he has good deeds and good actions and, gives a shit, lives by the Ten Commandments, is moral, does unto others as he would have them do unto him. He could murder, rob, cheat, steal. It didn't matter. If he believed in Jesus and God, he's going to go to heaven. How many other Christians believe in the same shit? As long as you believe in God and Jesus, it don't matter if you're a good person or not. If you're Jeffrey Dahmer and you go around killing a whole bunch of people, and then on your deathbed, you renounce Satan and say Jesus and God is who you believe in, do you get to go to heaven? So all those kids that Jeffrey Dahmer killed, all those young men that Jeffrey Dahmer killed, if they're in heaven, or they're not in heaven, they're homosexuals, they didn't get a chance to renounce, Satan and accept Jesus and God. So that means the people that Jeffrey Dahmer killed is in hell, and Jeffrey Dahmer, who accepted Christianity, is in heaven? That's not morality. Morality is you do unto others as you have them do unto you. And essentially, I like to think that we wouldn't murder, we wouldn't rape, we wouldn't steal, we wouldn't use violence. I like to think the big things we wouldn't do to each other. But I do see some of that. And then the small things are important too. Don't lie. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't believe in tyranny and injustice, superstition. I believe in a lot of stuff. So I believe in sort of logic and rationality. The last thing I want to mention is just I don't understand about him being a Democrat. Him being a Democrat, it doesn't make any sense to me. If he's in favor of discriminating against atheists, is he in favor of discriminating against black people or white people? Or what if we had a judge executive that only married gay people? And it might be like the Shakers, right? The Shakers of Pleasant Hill. I don't know. They didn't have sex, or they didn't believe in sex. They were very Puritan. I think they were even Puritan even during marriage. So if you only had gay marriages, that society might not survive after a couple generations. But if there was one and they said, no, we only do gay marriages and we don't do any other marriages, if there's an atheist and they rejected Christian marriages, which would be the exact same, right? That's on the same foot. But I'm just wondering who else would Hollis Alexander discriminate against? If you had a serial killer, a rapist, a child molester who came up to Hollis Alexander and asked them to marry him and they didn't mind about being married under God, would he marry them too? Are there some people he wouldn't discriminate against? Cold-blooded criminals. Would he discriminate against poor people, socialists, racist Republicans, city slickers? Ultimately, I believe homophobia destroys everything. It destroys men from being able to tell their sons or their male buddies that they love them in a strictly platonic manner, that they give a crap about their relationship. They don't talk about the relationship. They don't talk about their feelings. And it also robs men of touch. We're allowed to be violent. We're allowed to go overseas and kill people. But if we show any gentleness, we're gentlemen, right? If this is anything, this is the state of Henry Clay. This is why there's so many lawyers, and it's such a litigious society. The lawyers run this state. It's because it's a Henry Clay state. But I would say even Henry Clay would consider him a gentleman, right, gentlemen? So if we're all gentlemen here, why would we not treat each other with dignity and respect? I think it's disheartening to me as a Democrat. I think it's very disheartening that even the Democrats here seem to be clinging on to very conservative values. There are some things I'm conservative about. I'm conservative when it comes to guns. I'm conservative when it comes to my wealth. I'm conservative when it comes to the environment. And there's some things I'm liberal about. It just seems like it would make sense, right? When you think about all the issues that are out there, to always go towards the conservative perspective, that just seems insane. But Jack Conway, he lost his election. He was in favor of the Patriot Act. He was in favor of the Bush tax cuts. He was in favor of the war on drugs. And then he hated gay people until he ran for governor, just like Hillary, Billary, Shrillery, right? Clinton, just like Hillary is doing. She was against gay people until it became, politically, she couldn't be against gay people. Not even Donald Trump is against gay people. He's the most pro-gay Republican candidate ever in history. But Jack Conway was a Democrat, and he had all these conservative beliefs. And then Allison Grimes, who ran against Mitch McConnell. Jack Conway ran against Matt Bevin, the current governor. Allison Grimes, who ran against Mitch McConnell. The bad Allison, if you listen to the treasurer, she had an ad where she said she was against amnesty. She was in favor of the Keystone Pipeline, which, this is all what I think Trump would be in favor of. So anti-amnesty, was she in favor of the wall? She's in favor of the Keystone Pipeline, so just go ahead and go through the Native American lands, and who gives a damn about the environment? I think it'll create like 100 jobs throughout, all the United States. It's going straight down from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. So that's really good for the big industrialist. But in terms of helping the common person out, that's a lot of eminent domain. That's a lot of government taking over a lot of private territory. It's a lot of taxpayer dollars. And will it really help the United States that much? So she was in favor of the Keystone Pipeline. She was anti-amnesty. So she probably would be in favor of the Trump wall. And then she had that gun ad. She had that gun ad where she says, this is how you hold a gun. And she did hold a gun better than Mitch McConnell, I'll give her that. But all those are more conservative issues. And so it's disheartening that Democrats seem to be more conservative than Republicans. And if you run to the right of the Republicans, if you try to run as a fake Republican, the Kentucky voters choose the authentic Republican over the fake Republican every time. Every time. And there are times when it's okay to be a liberal. It's okay to say, I'm a Democrat for a reason. I'm a Democrat because I believe in democracy. I believe in the poor. I believe in, the rule of law, and I believe in classical liberalism. I believe in equality for women. I believe in, freedom of speech and the right to assemble. I believe in these things. I don't believe in fascism, that there's only one dictator and we all got to kiss the fascist dictator's butt. So it is disheartening that the Democrats seem to be more conservative than the Republicans. If you're a Democrat, you're a Democrat for a reason. Was your dad a part of the union? Unions are on the ropes. Matt Bevin's going to go after the unions. They're on the ropes. So are you a Democrat because you're for the unions? I am for unions in general, that any organization can be corrupt. But in general, I'm in favor of unions because that's the only leverage that working class people have. If you don't have a union, then you're just kissing your boss's butt and hoping that he doesn't fuck you over some dumb shit. Hopefully that you make him so much money that he'll just be overwhelmed with himself that he'll give you a raise. Well, you did make me another $1 million, another cool $1 million this year. How about a dollar raise? You want yourself a dollar raise? With unions, you get yourself a contract. Is that why you're a Democrat? I think that Democrats should be proud of being Democrats. A lot of times the party switched in 1964 because of racism and bigotry. So black people are allowed to integrate with white kids in schools now. A lot of Democrats who were the KKK Democrats, the Democrats who are against Abraham Lincoln, switched. The Republican, Abraham Lincoln Republicans switched to the Democratic Party because now the Democrats were actually protecting black folks when it used to be the Republican Party. So maybe you're not actually a Democrat. Hollis Alexander, maybe you're not actually a Democrat. And if you're not a Democrat, just at least be honest about it. There is a letter that was sent to the Trigg County Judge Executive Hollis Anderson, Andrew L. Seidel. He is a staff attorney from the Freedom From Religion Foundation, and he wrote a very good letter quoting the statute that governs this 402.050. He also wrote a lot of the precedent for where the law stands, where the Supreme Court stands. So I'll just read it out loud. This refusal violates the U.S. Constitution. As a government official, you have an obligation to remain neutral on religious matters. The Supreme Court has established that the First Amendment mandates governmental neutrality between religion and between religion and non-religion. That comes from McCreary County versus the ACLU. 2005, and that's quoting Epperson v. Arkansas, 1968, Everson v. Board of Education of Ewing, 1947, and Wallace v. Joffrey, 1985. Now, that's a McCreary County versus ACLU citation, and McCreary County versus the ACLU is a Kentucky case, which is just south of here, and McCreary County had the Ten Commandments up in their courthouse, just like Knox County had. And I had a run-in with the Knox County Judge Executive because I was waiting in the lobby. I was bored, so I just started videotaping, the walls and anything I could videotape. And I went across the sheriff's office. I walked down the hall, and I looked in the sheriff's office, and they had the Ten Commandments right there on their wall. So Sharia law is definitely here and in effect, and they're being bigots. But McCreary County versus the ACLU took it up with McCreary County, and they said, no, you can't have the Ten Commandments up. Now, usually the way it comes down is Either you have a display, you can have a historical display or the world religions display where you have all the world's religions, so you're not discriminating, by sanctioning Christianity, you're, inherently discriminating against any other of the other religions. And the First Amendment says you cannot the Establishment Clause, you can't do anything to establish religion. So that has been interpreted that, no, instead of having, all religions in your courthouse, it's secular. Government is government, government is people, and religion is religion. So it's separate. There's two different things there. Carrying on, it says, moreover, the preservation and transmission of religious beliefs and worship is a responsibility and a choice committed to the private sphere. Santa Fe School District versus Doe in 2000. That's quoting Lee V. Wiseman in 1992. So the county sends a message of religious endorsement by refusing to provide secular ceremonies. Under the Constitution, it is illegal to condition a government benefit on the religious test. See Torcaso v. Watkins, 1961, holding that religious requirements unconstitutionally invade citizens' freedom of belief in religion and therefore cannot be enforced against them. By conditioning the receipt of a marriage license from Trigg County on an agreement to have a religious ceremony, the county is violating the rights of non-religious couples to equal access to government benefits. So, and that's another thing. I'm gonna compare it to the homosexual discrimination that a lot of Christians, like Matt Bevin and Kim Davis, believe in. So you believe, a lot of people would say, well, I don't believe in them getting extra rights. They don't deserve extra privileges that everybody else have. Well, if they're just getting married, that means they want the same rights, not extra rights. In fact, extra rights would be like saying you get to enforce your religion on everybody else, but nobody else can. That would be extra rights. That would be you having more rights than anybody else. And so, this is just bullshit! So I have a few questions for Hollis Alexander.
Judge Executive Office is here.
Yeah, hey Karen, is Mr. Alexander around?
No, he's not in today. Can I take a message?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a freelance journalist, and I was just wanting to ask him some questions regarding the atheist rejection.
What's your name?
Jonathan Masters.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
M-A-S-T-E-R-S?
Yes, ma'am.
And, I can take a message and I can give him a message to call you, but he will not. He is in meetings and he'll be out until Monday.
So he's in meetings, or he was out?
He's in a meeting. He won't be in the office.
Oh, I got you. Does he have a
He's
cell phone?
Not in the office. He's out of town.
Does he have a cell phone?
I can't give that out.
I got you. Okay, yeah, let him. I just got a couple of questions, and it'll be painless. So,
okay.
If you can pass the message along, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
I'm not very sure I'll get any answers. But as a Democrat, I'd assume that he's in favor of Obamacare and the Medicaid expansion. But I'd also assume that he would be in favor of love and marriage, even if the couple are a superior and morally righteous atheist. So, Hollis Alexander, why are you a Democrat? Do you believe in classical liberalism? Do you believe in democracy, the rule of law, equality for women? Question 2, Hollis Alexander, do you believe in the separation between church and state? Do you believe that government can institute any religion that they want to institute, whether it's Hindu, Muslim, or Christian? Or do you believe that there should be a wall between church and state? Hollis Alexander. Question number 3, if we're a Christian nation, how come Kentucky still has 1 million folks in poverty, and our governor is pushing for these death panels? Shouldn't the Christian religion, we've been here, if we start out as a Christian nation, we've been here for over 200 years. Why so many poor people? Isn't that a big thing about Christianity, to care about the poor? Hollis Alexander. Question number 4. Did Matt Bevin's bigotry and pro-Christian Sharia law agenda against homosexuals embolden your bigotry against atheists? Question 5. Would Hollis Alexander marry 2 white Republican city slickers? Or would he discriminate against them too? Would he marry 2 black Shawnee socialists? Is he in favor of discrimination? Who else does Hollis Alexander discriminate against? Question number 6. The law says, Kentucky law, KRS says that justices and judges of the Court of Justice can marry folks. So if Hollis Alexander couldn't marry them and he sent them to Christian County, I'm just wondering, there's nobody in Trigg County in the Court of Justice. That's the judicial system. So there's no judge or justice in Trigg County's judicial system that would marry atheists. Question 6. KRS also says that justices and judges, never mind, hold on. Question 7. It also seems that the law, the way that it states that the judge executive could delegate his power, the magistrates, commissioners, justices of the peace, he could empower them to marry individuals to others. Why wouldn't Hollis Alexander do that? Are all the magistrates or commissioners, are they against that too? Question 8. Matt Bevin made it to where religious folks cannot discriminate against homosexuals by taking their name off of the county or the circuit clerk's form. So he accommodated religious freedom. So I'm wondering, why can't county governments accommodate atheists, especially since they're the ones who are rooted in reality and empirical evidence, rationality, logic. And we don't have much in this world, but we do have logic. And again, it's not much, but it's all we got. I guess you could believe in the invisible man in the clouds if you want, but I just don't understand why religious bigots who hate homosexuals are accommodated, but atheists are not. You don't want your name on the form? Well, couldn't somebody else have filled it out? Couldn't you have a surrogate? Couldn't you have a form that didn't have your name on it? And last question, does Hollis Alexander believe that his invisible friend in the clouds, who's staring down and smiling at him so lovingly all the livelong day, watching him 24/7, and every other of the 6, 7, 8, 9 billion people in this world, does he believe his invisible friend is more important than human beings, such as Kentuckians, such as Mindy Heath and her fiancé John? So hopefully I get some answers. We'll see. We'll see if Hollis Alexander answers any of this Kentucky citizens' questions.